So you want to know about Hammurabi's code, or maybe your teacher is forcing you to learn about Hammurabi's code. Either way, I've got you covered in this little video. You'll learn about it. By the end of the video, you should be able to answer the question that's on the screen. How are Hammurabi's laws both a product of their time and ahead of their time? All right, so in order to learn about Hammurabi and his code, we have to go back 4,000 years, and we have to go to what was known as the cradle of civilization. And that is one of the first areas ever to have a civilization was Mesopotamia. Okay, the Euphrates and Tigris rivers is what makes this area so fertile and such a great place to start a civilization. Who was this Hammurabi guy? Well, he was a king of Babylon. He was one of the greatest kings of Babylon. He was a great conqueror, and he's most well known, though, for a set of laws that he created. So Hammurabi's code is a bunch of laws, 282 laws. They were carved in 12 tablets of stone back in 1792. Now, that date changes depending on where you read, but 1700 BC, we're talking 4,000 years ago. The language that it was written in is cuneiform, which looks like little triangles and shapes. And these are said to be one of the first ever written laws. So why is it important to write down laws? What do you think? If we had laws and they weren't written down, what might happen? All kinds of bad things, right? You don't know what the law is if you can't read it. Somebody tells you one thing, somebody else tells you another. Also, the enforcers of the law can decide, oh, it's not illegal today because you're my cousin and I like you. Or, you know what, that's illegal, just make up a law. It's very important to document laws that people are supposed to follow. And that's what Hammurabi's code does and why it's a game changer. So the nickname, and you may or may not have heard, is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That's the nickname of Hammurabi's code. And that's because of law number 196 and law number 200 of the 282 laws. Law number 196 literally says, if a man takes another man's eye, his eye shall be taken. And 200, you can probably guess, if you take somebody's tooth, knock out somebody's tooth, they take out your tooth. Now, you know, this seems very neat and clean and kind of makes sense, right? And plus, I bet there'd be a lot less crime if this was the punishment today. There were three categories of laws in Hammurabi's code. The first is crimes, robbing, stealing, murdering, etc. The second is transactional. There were a lot of the laws had to do with trade and business and what was and wasn't legal in that regard. And the final one was family, marriage, divorce, children, that kind of thing. And the laws, the punishments were retaliatory in nature, meaning if you do something bad, the punishment is going to be bad as well. As opposed to what we have in today's society, some would say we try to rehabilitate criminals so that they won't do it again. They weren't interested in that, okay? So a lot of the punishments, well, if a holy woman were to drink alcohol, she gets burned to death. If you take somebody else's slave out of the city, you are killed. And if you steal, you're killed. if you receive stolen goods? Want to guess? Yep, death. And death was really bad. They would burn you and boil at the stake, set you on fire, or put you in boiling water, or hang you, or something called drawn and quartering. That's when they hang you first, cut off your head, and then take the rest of your body and cut it into 4 pieces. All right? Yeah, pretty tough stuff. Now, once a person is accused of a crime, they get to go to trial, which is pretty cool back then, right? But some of the ways that you proved your innocence was kind of superstitious. For instance, if you were accused of doing something and you claim you're innocent, in some instances, what you had to do was jump into the Euphrates River. And if you made it back to shore, you were innocent. If you drowned, you were guilty. In other cases, if someone accused you of committing a crime and you swear to God that you're innocent, that's it. You are free of any obligations and you're considered innocent. The punishments varied according to where you were in society. So if you steal from a rich guy versus a peasant or a slave, the punishment will be more harsh the higher the person is in the hierarchy of the social ladder. So there's an example given here. If a man kills a pregnant servant, he has to pay a fine. If he kills a freeborn woman, his own daughter gets killed. Okay, not him, but his daughter. So this is one example of, depending on who you commit the crime against, the punishment varies. Hammurabi's law actually set a minimum wage, which is pretty crazy. 4,000 years ago, there was, if you were a field laborer, you were guaranteed a certain wage, which was 8 gur of corn, which was a lot of corn. So there was a lot of bartering 4,000 years ago. And yeah, minimum wage. Some of the laws were way ahead of their time and would sound familiar to you today. For instance, if you're accused of a crime, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. A person who accused someone needed to bring forth witnesses in order for the accused to be found guilty. And in fact, if you accuse somebody and you can't bring witnesses forward within a certain time period, you were punished. The other thing that Hammurabi's code did was try to ensure that just judges were impartial. Around this time period, it was very common that you bribe the judge and then he makes a decision in your favor. Well, according to Hammurabi's code, if a judge is found to make any decision that was a bad decision, he would be stripped of his robe and he could never be a judge again. All right, we're back to the original question. Can you answer it? How were Hammurabi's laws both a product of their time and ahead of their time? Did you say? For a product of its time, they were superstitious. Their execution methods were brutal. Most places don't do that anymore. The punishment was based on social classes instead of the same punishment for everyone. And then for ahead of their time, they had a minimum wage, they had a presumption of innocence, and accusers had to bring forth witnesses, and fair and impartial justices. Those were all examples of how they were, number one, a product of their time, but at the same time, in some ways, ahead of their time. So that is lowdown on Hammurabi's code. It's time for a riddle. Each one of these videos that I make ends in, yeah, it's corny. They're corny riddles, but I like corny riddles. All right, here you go. Think about this one now. Why couldn't Cinderella play soccer? Why couldn't Cinderella play soccer? It's either before, after she lost the shoe. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. She kept running away from the ball. Oh, I get it. You get it? Thank you so much for listening to this video. I hope it helped clarify some things for you. And if you liked it, please hit like. If you didn't like it, I'm really sorry, but don't hit the thumbs down. It makes me feel. Till the next video, be great.